Hi, everybody. I'm Brittany Lewis, a breaking news reporter here at Forbes. Joining me now is Ohnsman, senior editor and author of the Current Climate newsletter. Alan, thanks so much for joining me.
Hi, Brittany. Great to be with you.
Numbers from Tesla's second quarter are historic, but not in the way a company would like. Tesla saw its biggest ever year-over-year decline in vehicle deliveries. So now, as we sit here at the beginning of Q3, what problems does the company face?
Well, unfortunately, it's more of the same. We saw this in Q1, and the problems continued in Q2. Its core business is selling electric vehicles, selling charging services, and selling batteries. And we don't know all the details for charging services and battery sales yet, but the biggest chunk of Tesla's revenue, electric vehicles, down a lot, about 13.5% in the quarter. Just, dramatic declines, especially in Europe. They were down in China, they were down in North America. And this comes after a rough Q1. There was some hope that a refreshed version of the Model Y was going to help boost sales a little bit in Q2. That did not materialize. Cybertruck, the newest product, the sales are small enough that Tesla doesn't even bother to break them out. It's lumped together with Model S and Model Y in this kind of other product segment, and that segment was way down. So Cybertruck has not delivered anywhere close to the types of numbers Musk was promising a couple of years ago. So it was a pretty rough quarter. We'll know in a couple of weeks when they do earnings what those other business areas looked like. The excitement for Tesla for a lot of investors is new businesses. But, I'll be a broken record on this one. 95% of its revenue comes from cars, batteries, and charging services. And if those businesses aren't strong, Tesla's not strong. And they need to really up their game there. And we saw no indication in Q2 that many of the problems they faced in their auto business, for example, have been addressed at this point.
And to that point, those businesses aren't strong in Q2, another rough Q1. What has Elon Musk said about all of this?
Not a lot. I mean, I think most of his conversation has been pinned on robotaxi and new businesses. And so put all your faith and hope in those areas. Those may prove to be great new sources of revenue at some point. But as I also like to say, today you cannot realistically calculate or forecast, say, robotaxi revenue. They're operating a limited pilot program in Austin, charging a token amount per ride. So there's no meaningful revenue from that. Even when it gets to $100 million, $200 million, $400 million of revenue, when does that happen? I couldn't begin to tell you, because we don't really know when this project or program is going to be able to scale. And at the same time, Tesla's just getting hammered by BYD and a lot of the Chinese manufacturers and Hyundai and Kia and General Motors and many other automakers that have added a great many competitive products in its core business and has not refreshed its product line. So that's a very simple issue. And unfortunately, the company has not focused on compelling new products at this point. So that certainly should be of concern. The stock has fallen a bit now, and you raised a point about what some of the concerns are there. Tesla, one of the reasons Tesla's down is not just competition. It's that Elon Musk himself has done some damage to the brand. His image is not great. His work in Doge and with the Trump administration was not helpful for the Tesla brand. That's one reason why Europe in particular, Tesla has been down so precipitously. It's way down here in California where I am. China has been Tesla's best market. The Chinese don't really care about Doge or Musk's association with the Trump administration. That is not of consequence. But Tesla's just failed to stay competitive in the Chinese market. Xiaomi and BYD and NIO and just all these interesting, Chinese EV companies just keep adding really exciting new products that are better priced, more features, all sorts of things. And Tesla is just not showing the kind of competitiveness that you would want to see for a company that, at least at the end of 2025, was technically still the world's leader in EV sales.
And you and I have talked before about the three camps of Tesla's problems: competitors, product issues, and Elon Musk and his brand issue. And I want to talk about that because Wedbush analyst Dan Ives said that Tesla's board, quote, needs to act now and set the ground rules for Musk going forward around his political ambitions and actions. And he posted 3 steps for Tesla's board on X. He said this, quote, new pay package, getting Musk to 25% voting control, clears a path for XAI merger, guardrails established for amount of time Musk spends at Tesla as part of pay package, and oversight on political endeavors. That's a lot of monitoring for a CEO. What do you make of those recommendations?
Certainly Dan thinks those would be helpful. I mean, I would say, where has the board been for the last few years? Because if you are holding your breath that Tesla's board is suddenly going to get firmer with Elon Musk, you may be in for a rude surprise. His public behavior has, shall we say, deteriorated to some extent over the last few years. Calling people pedophiles, claiming he had money to take the company private, any number of inflammatory comments on Twitter and X over the years, and then his political involvement before he decided he was forming his own political party, and Tesla's board did nothing. There's no indication that they have any ability to rein in Elon Musk at this point. That's simply, objectively, the reality. So I think that's quite a wish list from Dan Ives. I wouldn't hold my breath that any of those things are going to happen. That has been an ongoing issue, and I think you can talk to any number of experts in corporate governance who just roll their eyes when they, look at Tesla's board and its failure to really actively try to set some restraints and some guidelines for Elon Musk. And I really cannot think of another company where this is the case, where a CEO, his public behavior can be very damaging, and the board consistently does not get involved. So, good luck with what Dan's asking for, but I'm not optimistic any of that's going to materialize.
And Dan's wish list was compared to essentially babysitting Elon Musk. And Elon responded directly to that on X. He said, "Shut up, Dan." And Tesla's board of directors is made up of 9 people. 2 of them have the last name of Musk. Elon Musk himself, as well as his brother Kimball Musk. There's 7 others. Have they ever tried to restrain Elon Musk in the past? I mean, what's the point of having a board of directors if they see these problems and don't really do anything?
There is no public example I can point to of where the board did intervene. It looked like perhaps after Musk left the Trump administration, and he left on good terms, but then immediately got into a social media fight with Trump over the budget bill, and things got ugly. And then he dialed it back. When he dialed back, perhaps that was the board saying something quietly, but then of course it all just exploded again, leading him to announce he was creating his own political party, which is an interesting development.
And that political party is the America Party. And he announced that over the weekend. By Monday, his net worth plunged by $12 billion. I mean, he's still the richest person in the world, and the second person being Larry Ellison. And Elon Musk has over $100 billion more than Larry Ellison as you and I sit here right now. In this case, do you think money talks, though? When it comes to Elon Musk, and does that matter? Will he listen because he's so rich it almost essentially won't affect him?
I think there's an argument for the latter there, that I don't know if that really, to what extent that really impacts his judgment at this point. I think he's going to do what he wants to do regardless. And certainly all indications are that if this is something he wants to do, he's just going to do it. It does underscore this issue that we had seen, though, earlier in the year, where so many of his public comments and actions, from Doge to different things he was tweeting, were clearly very, very damaging to the Tesla brand. And starting a political party has nothing to do with the bottom line of any of his companies. It is so separate and removed. And again, everything with Elon Musk is unprecedented. I can't point to an example. Ross Perot, who was a very successful business person, who had one of the most impressive independent party runs in U.S. history. He didn't really start a political party. He did start a political movement of sorts. It didn't survive him. It doesn't continue. It was just about him. Musk himself, being born in South Africa, can't run for president of the United States. But he can certainly fund a presidential campaign, limitless funding. And apparently he's been in talks with Andrew Yang. And so, maybe he'll cobble something together. But right now, it would seem that any political party he puts together is more of a revenge act against Trump and the Republicans, and would really, that's who's most likely to be damaged in future elections as a result.
And what's interesting about Elon Musk, too, is that the brand problem is multifaceted because he says erratic things. He has reportedly a very erratic personal life. He also is seemingly spread too thin for any CEO. He's involved in politics. He's very outspoken politically. Can Tesla's board, can Tesla investors look at Elon Musk and directly say, hey, your actions are directly impacting our bottom line, A, and B, any chance he's going to listen to that?
Well, they certainly should have been saying that for quite some time because it is objectively reality. It simply is. And if they're not saying that, that's really, that speaks to what a poor job they're doing as the board of a public company and paying attention to their fiduciary responsibility. So objectively, 100% they should be doing that. Whether if they are doing that and he's ignoring it, well, then that's also a problem because he, at the end of the day, does report to the board. Would they ever be in a position to say, okay, well, we're going to relieve you of your duties here? I don't know that that's going to happen. There was that Wall Street Journal piece, I guess, from a few months ago where they were quietly floating a job search and looking for potential candidates. And a couple months ago, I put my own list together of 5 people that I thought might be able to do the job. Tesla doesn't have what SpaceX has. It doesn't have a Gwen Shotwell. Gwen Shotwell at SpaceX is the president and COO, but she's really been de facto running that company for 20 years. There is no equivalent to a Gwen Shotwell at Tesla. Recently, a key lieutenant who ran North American and European operations just left. I think I saw overnight a report that another key tech person, who was developing Tesla software, just resigned. The number of high-ranking Tesla executives who could roll into, say, a CEO position or even a COO position, very few, very small. It does not publicly have a deep bench of talent, a narrow C-suite. So it puts things in a problem. There's no one immediately in the company that the board could turn to and say, can you run things on a day-to-day basis? It's very murky, where things are going to go with Tesla. If Musk continues with this push to create his America Party and that becomes a thing on top of supposedly being Tesla's CEO and SpaceX and X and Boring Company and XAI and everything else, that's just too much for it. No one can do that. There are only 24 hours in the day. That's just untenable. Should the board be standing up and saying you really need to do less and especially things that are harmful to the company. Yes, they should be. Is he going to listen? I think, as of today, that's unlikely.
And he's also facing another headache at X. A high-ranking person at one of his other companies is now out, Linda Yakarino. What do you make of that, and what really does that mean for Elon Musk when he's already, and his board is viewing him potentially as being stretched too thin and having other priorities at other companies?
Well, when he bought Twitter, he was initially the CEO, and that upset people because they said, look, you're already doing too much, and now you're taking on the duties of yet another company by running that. And so to pacify folks, he hired Linda Yakarino to be the functional manager. She survived 2 years in that role, left somewhat unexpectedly, there has been no announced replacement as we're talking at this moment. Perhaps that'll change within a day or so. But it does raise this new issue of does he now go back and is he the de facto CEO for yet another company, which is more of a time suck, when he's already trying to do a lot of things. The other issue, of course, is Linda Yakarino has been in a very difficult position because as X, Twitter's taken a very dark turn. It's become very controversial for the types of content on there, the lack of restraint, and a lot of advertisers had, of course, fled the platform over the last couple of years. It seemed like for a period this year, because of Musk's association with the Trump administration and the fact that X Twitter was being used as such an important platform for some news announcements, that it was starting to trend back up again. What we saw shockingly within the last few days, of course, was that Grok, the chatbot integrated into X that's created by XAI, has just gone nuts with crazy anti-Semitic, racist stuff. No clue why no one was stepping in, intervening much faster to stop that. But it got particularly terrible on Tuesday. And then the fact that Linda Yakarino left the next day, was that a factor in her final decision? One would think possibly, because her role was to get advertisers to come back to the platform. It's pretty hard to get Disney and McDonald's and Coca-Cola and Budweiser to advertise on a platform that is actively, that has an AI on it that's actively spewing anti-Semitic, racist nonsense. Who wants to advertise on that? So it kind of put her in an impossible situation. Perhaps that was the final straw. We'll find out as time goes on. But it's a big concern what's going to happen in terms of who's going to manage it. Does that now mean he's got to spend more time with it, which means less time for Tesla and all his other companies?
Alan, one of our first conversations when we started talking more frequently about Elon Musk and Tesla was the theme that things are bad at Tesla right now and they are probably going to get worse. So when you're now looking at Q3, when we're sitting at the beginning of it, what signposts, what specifically are you looking out for next?
I'm a simpleton, so in my case, I keep looking at the same things, which is the core business. To me, at this point, I'm not an investor, I'm a reporter. When he talks about AI, robotaxis, and humanoid robots, I think that's very interesting. Fine, work on that, turn that into a business someday. But I want to see how is your core business that pays the bills, that boosts your stock price. How is the core business doing? And the core business does not look great. And of course, we didn't mention this, but the other factor is Tesla has been the biggest beneficiary of federal incentives for its customers in the form of EV tax credits. Those are now going away at the end of September. So that suggests that at the end of September, which is the end of Q3, that does not set things up well for both Q3 and Q4. You were getting a $7,500 tax credit if you bought a Tesla today, and you will continue to get that up until the month of September. But after September, they're gone. that's going to affect sales. That's for everybody, the entire industry. The pullback by the federal government on many of the incentives that were created for federal support for charging infrastructure. Tesla's been making money, millions of dollars in federal contracts for charging services because it opened up its network to other EV brands that could now charge at Tesla superchargers. Those funds go away. The support for that goes away. Its battery business for energy storage, especially large-scale energy storage, has benefited from the IRA, Biden's IRA, federal incentives for those types of projects. That goes away. So a lot of the supports that Tesla has benefited from, I mean, Elon Musk was one of the biggest critics of President Joe Biden, but Tesla was this, arguably in the auto space, the single biggest beneficiary of Biden's policies. All of that is going away. So what that tells me is the first half stunk in terms of sales. There's nothing to indicate Q3 and Q4 will be better, and especially as the year continues. Q4 looks particularly tough right now. So that story saying things are bad at Tesla, they're going to get worse, unfortunately, that remains the case. The future is not great for the core business in the months ahead.
Well, I think that means we have plenty of conversations that are still yet to be had. Alan Ohnsman, thanks so much for joining me.
Thanks, Brittany. Great to be with you as always.